got a digital lux meter that I purchased. This one came from onshore as opposed to AliExpress. And I've been purchasing a variety of lights and things like that, and they all have kind of outlandish sounding settings for their lux output. And well, let's say they don't really sound very realistic. And so I thought, maybe it's time to get one of these lux meters to help me out. So this one is frequently, top rated on Amazon. And so I decided to buy this one. Spent my own money on this. And haven't even opened it yet. Or did I? Oh yeah, I cut it open. So, so it's a nice, that's a nice little unit there. It's kind of rubberized. You see, I haven't done anything to set it up. So, got a screwdriver, because of course, the kind of people that buy lux meters, they clearly don't have screwdrivers. I wonder about that. It's got a little plastic bag there. Oh, there's a screw in there. Well, that's good. We wouldn't want to misplace that screw. And there's a 9-volt battery. Okay, well, I'm sure we've got 9-volt batteries lying around, so we'll just put that to the side. And of course, there's the sensor unit. Remove this cover before use. Okay. I'm sure we will remember to do that, because otherwise it won't work. And there's the light sensor. So it should say replace cover after use. That might be a little more useful. And of course, these bits here, although they're molded in orange plastic, they're the same sort of hard plastic as the shell here. Whereas this is sort of like a rubberized gasket. And it's got a bit of a bail there. Sorry, so you can stand up. So that's nice. A little bit worrisome there where that snaps shut. No, that's not so bad. Okay, so first thing I think we'll have to do is put the battery in, because it won't work without that. Okay, so let's put the battery in. I will guess that this is where the battery goes, at the bottom. I hope I'm right. Okay, so clearly the screw there, they've given us a spare screw, so that's kind of thoughtful in case we lose the screw. But now we have to kind of keep this screw safe somewhere where we will remember it in 5 years when we lose that other screw. Well, good luck with that. Okay, so I think that's where the battery goes. Okay, so we have to kind of take the gasket off, and then we get the battery compartment. So that could probably have been designed a little bit better, because of course you'd love that gasket to be on when you're turning it upside down, but well, it is what it is. So we connect the battery there, and stick it in. It's interesting, it's been a while since I've had something that uses a 9-volt battery. And now what is nice is that the battery terminal, let's see if I can zoom in there. Not the battery terminal, the battery compartment, it has a brass ring there for the screw threads. So it's not one of those self-tapping screws that kind of destroys the plastic over time. So that's a good sign. Let's just make sure this turns on before we get any further. Yeah, that turns on, turns off. Cool. Okay, so let's close it up. And like I said, I can't really complain too much that they've given me a screwdriver, but I wonder if I could save $1 or two. Maybe the unit would have been a little cheaper if the screwdriver not included. Okay, now we have to put this back on. Of course, we'll want this notch here to match where the sensor comes out. Okay, kind of a no-brainer there. Get this on. Okay, has a nice feel to it. Okay, and then there aren't really, I mean, it's not like there's a whole lot of controls here. So we can turn it on. And of course now we've got the cover on, so it's not reading anything. If we take the cover off, well, it's now saturated because of the range. So if we go through the range, okay, I'm not sure exactly what range I'm in right now, but it's reading about 800 lux. Not sure what's causing the variation, but it's you know, kind of hovering around 700-800 lux. And of course there's a little lux in the corner. Hopefully you can see that. So that's how I know that it's on lux. Now this will obviously, it'll change from lux to you know, a really common unit that I'm sure everybody uses, which is foot candles. So really strange that they would include that, but you know, no, it is what it is. Doesn't hurt anything, but yeah, people don't really use foot candles much anymore, but you can see it's reading 55. And press again, lux. Okay, what's interesting is, I wonder if my lights, if the power of my lights is dropping, because it's right now just reading the lights here in the lab. Let's see if we can turn that light up. Oh yeah. So that's a little bit weird that those lights keep dimming on their own. That's not something that I was expecting. Yeah, and if I turn that light up, so now I'm up to 1000 lux. And like I said, those lights seem to start dimming on their own. And that's not, that's interesting. I mean, I did notice that visually, but anyways, we can have, aside from setting the range, right? So this is times 10, right? So whatever the reading is times 10, so 99 times 10 is 990, times 100. And so this is probably just the, you know, 200 lux range. This is the 2000 lux range, so you can see that. So this button changes the range. Then we have a button that will hold the peak value. So it'll, let me try to brighten this up again. Right, there it goes. So it'll hold that peak value, and then there's a hold setting where when you press that, it'll just hold whatever the value was. If you set it again, press it again, it starts to read in real time. All right, now one of the things that's a little bit odd about this meter, so you can see as I move the sensor around, the values kind of change. In theory, they should be getting higher as I get closer to the light and lower as I get further. Of course, angle would also make a difference. So, you know, now I've explained the lux and the foot candles, the power. When you press hold, it just sort of holds the reading at whatever it was at. Now the peak is a little bit of a weird thing, because you'll notice that if I press peak, you know, the peak hold turns on there. Normally peak hold is supposed to kind of hold whatever the peak value is and stop reading. And you'll see it's clearly it's not stopped reading. So what's going on? Well, if I raise this up, so you see, well, now it's gone over range, so that's not going to help. Let's turn off peak. So you know, so we've got these readings. Let's move this a little further away. If I turn on the peak hold, right, and you can see the readings are kind of keep moving around and stuff like that, and of course I can cover it up. Now that I've covered it up and the light reading has kind of dropped off significantly, the peak hold kind of kicks in and it holds that setting. But if I move my hand away, right, all of the values change, and you know, and the peak hold kind of goes away. Now if I might, you see that value that it came to, that's below what it was at the peak hold. So the light sensor, right, it doesn't just sort of hit some peak value and stop the way the meter works. It's got to hit a value, and then there's got to be a certain amount of drop off in the total light reading for it to actually hold. And you know, sometimes when it's moving around like this, you can kind of see that the updates will pause for you know, for sort of a split second, right? They'll sort of stay a little longer, right? You can see, but it's not kind of holding at a peak. But if I do cover it up, and you know, now it's probably, if I were to turn the peak hold off, it's probably around 400 lux. Now it does hold, and it's not jittering around. So the peak hold seems to not work, but it does work, just not quite the way you would expect it to, right? You know, if I turn off the peak reading there, and I just leave the sensor and I put my hand over it, you can see that really, when I put my hand over it, it's dropping into the kind of 50 lux zone, right? Take my hand away, it's about 1,000 lux, right? So you can see it moving around. If I turn on peak hold, that number is going to kind of jump around, okay, but it's not going to be frozen. It's not going to hold the way you would expect it to. But if I put my hand in front, then it is going to hold the way you expect it to in that kind of 1,000 range. So it does work, but you just have to understand, let's say, the idiosyncrasy of how it does the peak hold, right? So it's looking for, you know, it's not going to hold off of little sort of little kind of jitters, if you will, right? And you saw there it kind of dropped off. Maybe the shadow dropped it to about 900, right? Yeah, so the lights are dimming now, right? So the peak hold does work. It just has a little bit of an idiosyncratic nature to it. So all in all, I think it's a pretty decent meter. I mean, it is, it's kind of, you know, not soft plastic, right? But it's neat that you can move the sensor around wherever you want it to. The case is a rubberized exterior, so if you drop it, it's not gonna, you hope it's not gonna shatter unless you drop it the wrong way. And it's got a cover, which means as it's kind of moving around, right, you know, as it's kind of just sitting around, it's not going to be gathering dust and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. So all in all, for the price I paid, I'd say it's pretty decent. And of course, the one thing to remember is when you're measuring lights, right, you're not going to be moving this light around kind of constantly, because light reading measurements are taken at specific distances. Typically, they're taken at either half a meter, 0.5 meters, or 1 meter. And so those are sort of settings that the luminaires are calibrated to or tested against. And remember, like, those work against sort of the inverse square law. So the further and further you get away from the light source, the greater the drop off is going to be by a factor of 1 over the square of the distance. So all in all, like I said, pretty decent light meter. I guess I will keep it since I finally figured out how the peak hold really works. Yeah, you can see there, as the really drops off, it'll hold. If the values start to pick up again, a new peak, right? But you'll see it went over 900, but you know, it dropped off and didn't really hold. It's got to kind of drop significantly from wherever the setting was for that peak hold to work. Okay, well, hopefully you found that useful. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe to my channel.